I want to say one thing to the people of the Netherlands and to the people of Amsterdam. Those who are protesting outside this podium think they know the Middle East, Islam, Arab-Israeli relations better than I do. They don't. I do. And by the way, I'm not against any protest, but if they are trying to intimidate an Arab Muslim who was indoctrinated with hate, defeated that hate with knowledge, facts, and the truth, good luck. They can't. They can intimidate, as I saw many of them in American campuses, they can intimidate the white American Gen Zs. They can intimidate the white Dutch who don't really know much about the Middle East, but they cannot intimidate an Arab and a Muslim who knows the Middle East so well and who believes in peace with Israel and who believes in the rights of the Palestinians, not Hamas, to live in dignity. When they shouted, "Free Palestine," I looked at them and I say, I agree with you. Free Palestine from Hamas. And I really want to say also that I met so many politicians in Europe, in America, in Canada, who asked me, "Hey, what is wrong with, what do you think we are doing wrong?" I told them, I'll be so blunt with you. You know what you're doing wrong? You are giving the liberal freedom to those who misuse it. You are giving the liberal freedom to those who misbehave, and they use the liberal freedom as a ladder to climb. As soon as they reach wherever they want to reach, they will throw the ladder away and they will change your societies. Trust me, those protesters, if they hop on a plane tomorrow to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, they will behave. I promise you, they will. And if they are willing to listen, I'd be more than happy. I spoke to many Muslim communities in London, in Europe, in the US, and I told them, I didn't leave the faith. I'm a Muslim, I'm an Arab, and I believe in peace with Israel, and these are my reasons. But make no mistake, one day I was in your shoes. I was on the other side of the river. I know exactly how it looked like. And I said, thank you, I'm not going back. So I am here mainly to share a message of hope to those who are attending and to those who are listening. A message of hope that, yes, there are Arabs and Muslims who believe in peace. Yes, there are Muslims who are not radical. We must make the extension in social media, in Europe, that there's a difference between radical Islamists and Muslims. There's a difference between the Palestinians and Hamas. And there's a difference, a real difference between pro-peace camp and pro-war camp. I always say, when I speak to Muslim audience, even when if I had the chance to speak to the protesters who would say, stop the war is ugly, I say, of course, I would call for stopping the war right now, the war in Gaza. Absolutely, it's an ugly war. But let's not forget, it's an ugly war that Israel didn't want, didn't ask for, and didn't start. It's a war that Hamas started, and it can end it yesterday, not today. If they release the hostages and lay down their arms, let's end the war. Let's end the war. Really. I was born and raised as a very religious Muslim. To those who outside chanted, you are a kafir, by the way. They chanted, you are a kafir. Kafir means infidel, person who doesn't believe in God. Well, I'm sorry to break the news to them. I memorized the whole Quran at the age of 17. I was a very religious Muslim. You can clap. There are 14 chapters. That's not easy. It's not like the Tanakh. So many books. So I memorized the Quran. I was a very religious Muslim, but my views changed when I was exposed to the Jews for the first time at the age of 27. At the age of 27, 16 years ago in France, Paris, I learned more about Jews. I learned more about Judaism. I learned more about the commonalities that we have. And I decided to encounter the hate that I was indoctrinated with, and I put it face to face, and I had the chutzpah, or the courage, to say, this is wrong, and I want to learn the truth. And this is why many of those who hate Jews, by the way, haven't met a Jew in their life. Many of those who hate Israelis haven't met Israelis in their life. Ignorance is not a bless, as many people say, but ignorance is the greatest enemy for peace. I do remember that when I was a religious Muslim, I'm still a Muslim, of course, but not a mishuga, in Hebrew, a crazy extremist who hates Jews, hates Israelis. No, but as someone who really changed with knowledge, facts, and the truth, I have the keys to dismantle the hate. I do remember when I came back from Paris at that time to Saudi Arabia, I had a discussion with my mother that I met. I stayed with a Jewish family. I I'm exposed now to the Jews. I want to learn more. I'm investing my time to learn Hebrew, to learn the Bible, to learn the Jewish history, and to learn. My mom, God bless her, told me, Loay, you are under a sudden fascination by this Jewish family. It will go away in 2 months. 16 years and counting. 16 years and counting. And when October 7 happened, that was the pivotal point to me to say that if you really change, you have to speak up. Why are you afraid to speak up? Did you really change? Did you really expunge the bad ideas that you had in your chest? Or are you afraid to speak up? I said, no, I did change and I'm going to speak up. I know there's a price to pay, but I'm willing to pay the price. You know why you're willing to pay the price? Because I didn't change with emotions or just because I love Israelis or I love the Jews. No, because I really learned facts that I was indoctrinated with ignorance against those facts when I was young. Facts about Israel, facts about the Jewish people, facts about the region, facts that are the biggest hurdle for peace in our region. And I will get to tell you more about that. So I realized many things that we were indoctrinated with, that they were wrong. And I assure you that many of those protesters outside are still indoctrinated with. Those who support Hamas in the West, I can assure you they haven't read Hamas charter. They haven't. And I spoke to many Americans, Gen Z's Americans, in Providence, Rhode Island University. And I told them, excuse me, have you read the Hamas charter? He said, yes, I have read both charters. The watered down one in 2017 and the original one in 1988. Please show it to me. He showed me the link. He said, you haven't read it. He said, here it is, the charter. He said, you haven't read it in Arabic. If you don't speak Arabic, you don't know what the charter says about their belief of the eternal enmity against Jews, of their total destruction of Israel. And by the way, they hate even Jews who are not, how to say this, who do not believe in the state of Israel. I just read an interview by Mr. Noam Chomsky, I think his name. I'm not so sure of how to pronounce it, but he said the Houthis, when they wave a flag that says "Curse be upon the Jews," it's because they haven't met a Jew in their life. They only know the Jews from Israel because Israel identifies itself as a Jewish state. Well, this is the problem with those who don't know the Middle East. There are Jews in Yemen who did not go to Israel. There are Jews in Yemen who I met in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, who said, we don't want to go to Israel. We are Yemenis. We didn't want to leave Yemen, but we were persecuted by the Houthis just because we are Jews. People in the West, like this gentleman, they don't understand that the real reason to hate Jews is a religious reason that stems from a radical extremist ideology and interpretation that we need Muslim scholars to say it is wrong and we need to move past it. But we don't have these encouraged or these courageous voices yet, unfortunately. So this is why I decided to break the cycle. Back to October 7, when October 7 happened, I said, I have to speak up. I have to speak up against Hamas, and I have to speak up against what they've done. Because Hamas on October 7th, they did not break into Israel to kidnap 3-4 soldiers and release 400 Palestinian soldiers as they did in 2011 with Gilad Shalit deal. No, they went to a music festival. They killed Israelis who celebrated life. They went to kibbutzim, the settlements in the south. I went to Be'eri and I saw the horrors of what Hamas terrorists did. So when those in the West say, let's stop this ugly war, I would say absolutely. But this war cannot stop if Hamas's evil is not removed. And by the way, if it's not removed, it will come after you here in Europe, in London, in Montreal, in Canada, in the US, and also after us, the moderate Arab states as well. Israel is not fighting on its behalf. Israel is fighting on behalf of humanity. But why did October 7 really happen? It happened because there was a shift for peace in the region. The Abraham Accords. The peace agreement that I defend with all my soul, with my heart, with my might, because I've seen how it was built from the grounds up. The peace agreement between Israel and 4 Arab states, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, where I come from, Bahrain, Morocco, and hopefully Sudan on and off because of the troubles that were made in Sudan. And I saw the benefits of the Abraham Accords. You know what distinguishes the Abraham Accords from other peace agreements, like the peace agreement with Egypt, with Jordan? That they were really security agreements. They were ceasefire agreements, only government to government level, even though I applaud my favorite hero of peace, the Egyptian president Anwar Sadat. I believe he was so sincere in making peace with Israel, people to people, deserves to be honored as a true hero of peace. But the Abraham Accords were people to people, and I saw the fruits of that. You know what I saw the fruits of it? When I see my Saudi relatives, my Saudi cousins, they call me, they say, Loay, I want to tell you one thing. I'm going to Dubai this Friday. I'm going to have a Shabbat dinner with a Jewish Israeli family. Because of your videos, I am so open to have more Jewish friends. And by the way, one of my cousins, Fahad, recorded himself saying this and he published it. I said, Fahad, please do not. I tell you why. Because you need to have great courage to stand against the hate of the comments of everything. He said, Loay, I'm past that. I also defeated hate. I thought I was the only one who defeated hate in the Middle East. Seems that I'm not the only one. There are many. There is another Loay, who is a Swedish Yemeni. There is Rawan Usman. There are other peace activists, Amjad Taha from the UAE. There are so many courageous voices. We are a growing minority, but we are getting there. We put our heads above the parapet, but we are getting there. This is why I intentionally wore my traditional clothes today, because I wanted to tell you this is the traditional Arab clothes that I'm so proud of. I'm so proud of being an Arab, so proud also of being a Muslim, but we are the voices of peace. We are not the majority. I can agree with that, but we are getting there. Many movements in history started with a minority, but they became the majority one day. And we see that the only way forward is having a prosperity in them, a prosperous Middle East, a thriving Middle East. Look at yourself with what Trump did in the past 2 days or 3 days or a week when he came to the Gulf. What were the agreements based upon? AI, high-tech, cybersecurity. The UAE reached Mars and it's concerned about reaching other planets. The UAE is concerned about artificial intelligence. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, he is so interested in moving the country to the next level with AI, high-tech. He wants to make his nation worry more about who's building more chipsets than the other, Saudi Arabia or the UAE. Not wars, not conflicts, not anarchies. This is the new Middle East. There are two Middle Easts. The Middle East of Saudi, UAE, and moderate Arab states, and the Middle East that is, thank God, is being collapsed right now, which is called the axis of resistance. Iran, Houthis, Hezbollah, those who did not bring prosperity to their own people, those who do not wish to, those who don't really care for the lives of their people. They are just considering their own people's losses, tactical losses. They don't care about their people. When I went to Israel for the first time, I was welcomed by a missile from the Houthis. As soon as I landed, everyone went to the shelter. I was welcomed with a missile. But you know what I noticed? That when the Israelis go to the shelter, they keep jokes and they keep fun and they amuse themselves inside the shelter. 10 minutes later, they go out, they celebrate life as nothing happened. And I said to myself, death worshippers cannot defeat people who celebrate life. The Abraham Accords made many people from Saudi, from Egypt, from Morocco see this face to face. It made Muslims and Jews mingle, talk, discuss, collaborate, work together. I know many Israelis moved to the UAE. I know many Israelis who opened their high-tech companies in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And I know many Emiratis who went also to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and opened their own businesses. Who does this bother? It bothers the enemies of peace, because the Abraham Accords has an enemy, and I call them the enemies of peace. The enemies of peace are radical extremists like Hamas, like the Islamic Jihad, like the Muslim Brotherhood. And by the way, Hamas is part of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is the armed wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. You know why in the UAE and Saudi we are so against the Muslim Brotherhood? Because we know them so well. We know them better than the Europeans. We trusted them. We let them go to our schools, teach our children. I was indoctrinated with the ideology when I was young in a religious school with the curricula of the Muslim Brotherhood. The book of في ظلال القرآن, In the Shadows of the Quran by Sayyid Qutb. I memorize it. I know it so well by heart. We trusted them when we thought that they would bring good to our communities. When we realized that they don't really want to bring good to our communities and they want to make us drawn in our conflicts, we decided to tell them that you are not any more welcome in our countries. Radical Islamists and Muslim Brotherhood are not welcome in the UAE, Saudi, and moderate Arab states. We had to kick them out. But guess what? Where'd they go? Amsterdam, London, Birmingham, Toronto, Montreal, Michigan, New York. They went to these places because, as I said, they found havens that offer them the liberal freedom that they misuse. The liberal freedom that they misuse, and they will one day flip against you, I promise you. This is why you need to listen to the voices from the Middle East, those who know. And we know what works best for our region, and we know what works best for your region, and we know exactly that Muslim Brotherhood is a lethal danger to the Middle East and to Europe. If you really want to defeat the radical extremists, you have to defeat them with knowledge. And I'll give you some examples. It has to start from school. If you ask the 17-year-old Loay, why did you hate Jews? Not because I was a bad person, but because this is what I know. In school, you go to a school and your teacher tells you you have to hate Jews and Christians. Of course, Christians come second. They are not outcasted, but Jews first, Christians second. But why? Because this is what pleases God. You have to hate Jews for the sake of being Jews, and you always have to know that you are far superior than Jews and Christians. You have to hate them for what they are. Okay, so this is what we were indoctrinated with, and it was so sincere and honest. But if you teach your children that we have differences with our Jewish and Christian brothers, but we have so many commonalities that we can focus on, that we can build our relations on, things would be different in the Middle East. Do we have these commonalities? Of course we do, and I'll tell you how. You know, in our faith, Islam, please do not laugh. We honor, revere, respect, and name our children after Jewish prophets, kings, and heroes. I know it sounds a bit funny, but this is the truth. And I'm so sure you can find someone in the protest outside who would say, death to Israel, or death to, from the river to the sea, or Jerusalem is the capital of Palestine. And you ask him, may I know your name, my friend? It happened to me once. My name is Dawood, of course, and I'm a proud Muslim. His name is Dawood, the Arabic version of David. He is named after the king of Israel who proclaimed Jerusalem as the capital of ancient Israel. You can laugh. Yeah, it is laughable. Or you can meet another Muslim outside who is so angry at the Jews and at the Zionist state, and his name is Yunus. But he doesn't know that his name comes from the Greek form Eunas, which comes from the Hebrew Jonah or Yonah, which means a dove, who was one of the most Zionist prophets in the Bible. The Quran praised him so much, but the Quran doesn't give the details. That Jonah refused the message of God to go to Nineveh to ask for the repentance, because Nineveh was the capital of Assyria and they were the enemies of Israel. How could you, my Lord, send me to the enemies of my people Israel to ask for the repentance? And I know for sure that you would accept the repentance. I am not gonna go. I'm gonna flee to Tarshish. And you have many Muslims named after Eunas, and they hate Israel. The son of the Houthis, his name is Jibril al-Houthi. You know, Jibril has no meaning in Arabic, but in Hebrew, Gever El, the man of God. He is named after the archangel Gabriel, who has a Hebrew name, and their slogan says, death to the Jews. Find the irony. This is what I say, the ignorance that we have in the Arab world that we need to fix. We need to connect the dots to tell people that, hold on, Jews are not foreign colonialists in their ancestral homeland. The Jewish people are not foreign colonialists. They are indigenous to this land. And anyone who says otherwise, tell them, please tell me where the word Jew comes from. They were never called Jews before 586 BCE. You know what they were called? Hebrews. Even Jonah, when he was asked by the people on the ship, who are you? You're causing lots of trouble in the sea. Says, only a Hebrew. They were always called the Hebrews. But after 586 BCE, when the Babylonians captured the people of Israel from the portion of the land that was called Judea, they asked them, where are you guys from? They said, we come from Judea. We are the Jews. If your ancestors, or if the ancestors of the Jews here on this podium were brought from the portion of the land that was called Binyamin, you would now be called the Binyaminites, not the Jews. So understanding history is so important to those who say that Israel or the Jewish people are foreign entities in our region. I was 2 days ago in Rome, and I went to the Colosseum, And I was so astonished when I saw the Arch of Titus. You know why? Because in the Arab world, there is a narrative that says the Jews are lying to the world by telling them that they had a temple in Jerusalem. This is a big lie. And this is Al Jazeera's favorite plot. And by the way, I was a big fan of Al Jazeera. I'm not going to deny that. I was repeating all their lies when I was a kid. Jews want to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque and they want to build no, not the Jewish temple, I'm sorry. The so-called Jewish temple. There was no Jewish temple in Jerusalem, of course. Are you kidding me? You want me to believe in the Bible? I don't believe in the corrupt book. This is what we were taught, even though we don't know anything about the Bible, how it was written, how the Jews were taken into consideration, how to write this amazing book, Jews taught world writing. No, there was nothing called the temple. But you know what you can find in the Arch of Titus? You can find Jews carrying a menorah. They were the Jews exiled from Jerusalem, from Judea. And Titus was so proud of doing this. But you know what is the significance? That the menorah comes from the Jewish temple. And if they don't believe in texts, they have to know that stones do not lie. So I want to conclude with something other than education, but I believe education is a very, very, very important thing to do. When this war ends, we have to de-radicalize Gaza. We have to de-radicalize many schools in the Muslim and the Arab world. But I please want you to know that the Arab voices that support peace in the Middle East, they have a message to many people who conflate Muslims and Islamists. There's a difference between peaceful Muslims who want to pray 5 times a day, celebrate the month of Ramadan, go to Mecca, go do Umrah, and the radical Islamists. A peaceful Muslim would not shut down the roads in Amsterdam or in Toronto or in Montreal to pray. This is not a ceremony of prayer. This is a ceremony of showing power that we are there and one day we will take over. And your liberal freedom that you are giving to those who misuse it will need to be rechecked. But peaceful Muslims, because so many, I don't say so many, but some people who support Israel or who support people they say, well, Islam by itself is lethal, dangerous. We cannot trust Islam. I tell them, please make the difference between spiritual Islam and radical Islam. Please make the difference between peaceful Muslims and radical Islamists. Please make the difference between the Palestinians and Hamas. Because I believe in the right of the Palestinians to live in dignity. I believe in the right of the Palestinians to live in peace. And to those outsiders, the protesters, when they said free Palestine, I said, I agree with you. Free Palestine from Hamas. A call for action is something that I will conclude. Thank you, my dear friend Nathan, for inviting me here to the Netherlands. And thank you to all organizations in Europe, in America, in Canada that invite the growing minority. Please keep inviting us. That's one. And also, I want you to know that together we can make it work. We can make it work because we believe in a prosperous Middle East. What is our message? To annihilate the Palestinians? To destroy the Palestinians? To stand against the Palestinians? Of course not. We would never badmouth the Palestinians as people. But we would stand against Hamas and radical Islamists because we know them far better than those outside protesting. And we know them far better than the white American Gen Zs. And we know them far better than the Europeans who pretend to stand against Israel, saying that they are doing this for the Palestinians. They do not understand the Middle East. They do not understand radical ideology. They do not understand the Arab world better than Arabs and Muslims themselves. You cannot be more Arab than I am. You cannot be more than Muslim than I am. And I'm telling you, the only way forward is for Arab countries to come along with Israel, a prosperous Middle East, a Middle East where Isaac and Ishmael reconcile, a Middle East where the children of Abraham thrive, live together, a Middle East where the prophecy of Isaiah becomes true when he said, nation shall not lift up sword against nation. They shall learn war no more. This is my personal battle, and I will keep fighting for it in social media, in podcasts, everywhere, proudly, whatever the results are, whatever the consequences are. I defeated ignorance and darkness with knowledge, facts, and the truth, and I will keep doing this no matter what it costs. Thank you.